Yo,
Yo, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Think we caught up with each other.
I know, finally, man. I'm sorry about that. I've been on the road. I've been on the road.
No, you're all good. So what are you before we get into it, what are you doing on the road? I know you were out here in San Diego a couple weeks ago, but like what are you doing?
Yeah, so I had to work out for the Colts on Monday. So just got back to Jersey Monday night. So, yep, back home training and just, staying faithful to the process, man.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was looking up a little bit. I know you were getting into the draft for 2022 and stuff like that, but they had you working out in San Diego for the Colts, or was it like a little like a workout, or what did they take you through?
So I was out in San Diego for an XFL showcase at the end of October, and then went up to LA, shot. I was on set for season two of Winning Time, that HBO Max series. So I was up there for a little bit, and then I came back down to San Diego, just training in the area, because it's better weather than Jersey. So I just stayed out there, kicked it out there for a little bit, and then they called me Friday night, flew me out Sunday, and then worked out Monday, and then just got back home to Jersey.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's how it goes, right? You gotta go show up when you get that call, right?
Yeah, real fast, happened real fast. But it was fun. Met the staff, put a lot of good stuff on tape. So, I'm walking out feeling good.
Nice, man. Well, congrats on that. Well, yeah, I mean, we'll jump into it. So, um, this is, for all intents and purposes, an educational platform, and I appreciate a little bit of what you do. I was just kind of not necessarily researching, but every time I get on with a new guest, I personally like to learn and find out about them, and that's why I know we were talking about, is there any pre questions we want to go over before? And I'm like, no, I mean, because I really want this to be um, kind of a conversation, but also I really am interested in learning and connecting with the different athletes. So it's cool that the purpose or the name of this podcast is the athlete connection, and really actually we're able to do that. Like connected with women overseas and athletes all the way in Florida and things like that. And obviously our two paths would have never crossed organically, but with this connection that we've been able to build this network, it's awesome to be able to have an opportunity to sit down with you and talk with you. So introducing Donald Stewart. Again, looking at your resume, obviously native Jersey, you talked about, but I just kind of highlighted some things that jumped out to me. Nationally ranked wide receiver, 4 years at Stanford, transferred to Wake Forest, grad transfer to Wake Forest. So you do have your master's now, right? Or are you still finishing it up?
Yes, sir. Just finished up.
Yeah, finished up. So, talk a little bit about that journey, what got you there, obviously leading up to Stanford. And then I would really want to get into kind of that process of how your experience was, once you stepped foot on that campus.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say, thank you for having me on. It's a blessing to, talk to, people like you and share some knowledge and share some things I learned along the way. And also shout out to Erica, aka Bird, for connecting us. She was a really, really good friend of mine when I was at Stanford, showed me around campus and took great care of me. So shout out to her. But basically, man, it's been a it's been a crazy, crazy journey dating all the way back to high school. Just to keep it, short and condensed, I was between Stanford, Wake, and Michigan, and then ended up committing to Stanford. Studied science and tech there. It was, really hard in terms of the rigorous academics and competing against, the top athletes in the world. We had guys, from all over the country, guys from all over the world competing for spots. Some of my best friends are all in the NFL right now, so those rooms were competitive, but I learned a lot, and super blessed for the experience. And then, when I went to Wake Forest, I entered the portal the senior year, my senior year, which was, I think, 2019 at Stanford. And then basically I remained in contact with the receiver coach from Wake Forest. He always just said, happy birthday, happy holidays, like, hope you're doing well, stuff like that over the course of 4 years. So I tapped back in with him. Coach Higgins, looking to, be a grad transfer somewhere. I finished my degree in the spring. Like, would you guys be open to talking to me further about this possible, deal? And he was just like,
Right.
yeah, coming for a visit. I came in for a visit in January, committed on my visit, played 2 seasons at Wake. The first year was tough because of COVID. So we had a lot of games canceled and whatnot. But then this last season, 2021, we went 11-3, had one of the best seasons in Wake Forest history. I was a leader on and off the field in the community. in the school. So it was just good to take a lot of things that I learned at Stanford and apply it to Wake in a new environment, closer to home, able to get my master's. And we ran a spread offense, which was awesome for receivers. We threw the ball, 50 times a game, put up 40 points a game. So just to be a senior and end out on such a high note was honestly a blessing. And I'm so glad that I went to both schools and so happy for my support system. All my family and my friends who, held me down the past 6 years. And I'm just excited for the next steps in the journey, man.
Yeah, and that obviously that journey set you up to doing what you're doing now, like obviously trying to break into the NFL. So that's great. Um, so starting off, right, like how was that recruiting process for you? Because again, I'm interested in everyone's journey, want to give them a platform mainly to educate that next generation of athletes because, like I said, everybody's experience, everybody's opportunity, everybody's expectation is different. So, like, what were your expectations going into it? Being maybe heavily recruited, not heavily recruited. How was that process or that experience for you? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, great question, man. So I was at Seton Hall Prep my freshman and sophomore year, and then I transferred midway through my sophomore year to Paramus Catholic High School. And Stanford was recruiting me my sophomore year, and then stayed with me even though I transferred. But my first offer came when I went to right when I transferred to Paramus Catholic, and Temple offered me. I want to say maybe like a month later. So I got a lot of confidence going into my junior year just to be finally put on the map. And then just being around guys at my school. Jabril Peppers is one of the guys who went to Paramus Catholic. Rashawn Gary was my class. Among other guys who went D1. So it was very competitive. We played a national schedule. So we played teams like IMG, flew down there, went to Maryland, played Gilman, Eastern Christian, played teams out in Ohio like St. Ignatius, St. Edwards. So we played a lot of, out of state teams. So I got a lot of exposure there too. So, I just give a lot of credit to my high school staff, Coach Partridge and his staff, my receiver coach, Coach Guest. They did a great job of, building me up, teaching me the fundamentals when I went to PC, and then sharing out my film to a lot of the schools that came in and was recruiting everybody. So give a lot of credit to them. And then in terms of my grades, I feel like once I started to get the mindset of I want to attend one of the best schools in the country, like the Northwestern, the Vanderbilt, the Wake Forests of the world. That's when just sitting down with the president of the school, Mr. Vale, sitting down with the academic support system there, like my guidance counselor, Miss Kuznick, and she was able to put me in the AP classes in order to get into Stanford, and setting me up for the SAT and the ACT and stuff like that. So like I said, I had a great support system, and I was a 3-star in high school, but I put up great film, and then ultimately being able to commit to the school that I wanted to go to at the end of the day was a tremendous blessing for me. And it was hard. It was hard because camp, it was like in the summers for me, bro. It was crazy. It was like I want to say I had track practice in the morning. Then I would drive up to PC and do our first practice, and then I would go to SAT prep, and then I would drive back to PC and do our second practice. So that was my summer. So a lot
That's
of people were
wild.
just wild, wild. So a lot of people were just like, oh, like, some people are like super talented and super gifted, but those were my summers. It was track, football, SAT, football, back home every day. So, I put the work in, and to see the fruits of my labor was a great feeling. And I was just super happy that I was able to get into Stanford and then, finish.
Yeah, it's funny because, like I said, everyone's got their different story, right? Their journey to get there, and I talk about it in all the episodes, right? There's the 1% of athletes, right, that are freakishly talented that don't have to put in that work, even though most of them still do. But what people don't realize is that grind that you just mentioned. But that's the difference between people that really they thrive on being successful and putting themselves in that good situation because obviously once the opportunity came, like you put in that work and then obviously you were able to benefit the fruits of your labor. So that's that's cool to hear you say that, especially on the other side of the country where not everybody is maybe thinking, geographically, right? Like, oh, well, you're in Southern California, maybe it's a little bit easier, or Texas for football. Like, nah, man, it's like that grind is universal. Um, but you hit on a lot of stuff that's interesting to me, and I don't even know where to start. But like, you talked about you transferred high schools, and the moment you did that, you got that offer. Do you think in your sport specifically, like that had a lot to do with it, just within that name, or was it as soon as you transferred, it was kind of that structure that they have, or that reputation that kind of, okay, this is what you need to do, boom, and then you got that offer? Like, what was it?
That's a great question. I feel as if I had, great film from my sophomore season, and I think the coaches did a great job of giving me opportunities, put me in situations to succeed my sophomore year. But I think that when I transferred to PC, the connections and the organization that they had sharing out the film, and then also, like I said, Jabril Peppers went there. We had Rashawn Gary. We had guys, Jawan Bushell Beatty. We had some dogs. So the people that they brought in with us, like Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, my coach was just like, hey, we got a guy who came in. He's going to be a baller for us. He's young. Just take a look at his film. And then, Temple was the first one to offer me. And then,
Right.
during the season, they just started coming in, started coming in.
So were you, again, because football's interesting, right? Because there's a lot of the big thing with a lot of young athletes right now, right, is that holdback year, so they can get bigger, get stronger, get a little bit more opportunity, get more film. When you transferred in, were you automatically like a role player, or were you transferred in and you were sitting behind someone, and then being in that environment, right? Like exactly what you said, like you had your coaches and staff kind of advocating for you, or was it vice versa?
So you're talking about when I transferred in from high schools, right?
Correct.
Yep. Yes. Another great question. So when I came into, when I switched to PC, it was a shock, man. It was a shock because everyone was so good. Everyone was just, like I said, they've been there. So the juniors and the seniors were looking at me like, who's this guy, coming in thinking he's gonna take my spot when I paid
Right.
my dues for three years already.
Right.
So it was tough. It was tough. Competed, had a lot of battles. We practiced in June. So right when I transferred there in April, I think I transferred like April 28th or something like that of I think, yeah, April 28th. I was lifting with them May, and then June we started practicing. So it was getting heated. It was heated all summer.
Yeah.
June, July, yeah,
Real
yeah,
fast.
real fast, real quick. I walked in and I was like, whoa, okay. But I realized that I belonged here. My parents believed that I could be here. The coaches wanted me here. So I just, competed. I competed like crazy. And then that's when I realized that this is the game that I love. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. So I just kind of had to, fight. I obviously I didn't start come in there and just start when they're a national powerhouse. They won a state championship the year before, so I wasn't just going to come in there and start.
Right.
But it was definitely a battle, competing against the ones and the twos. Because I was a three, competing, and then ultimately earn my respect in the locker room, earn my respect in the staff, and that's how I ended up playing. Yep, going forward.
Nice. I mean, and that's what you got to do, right, at every level. And I mean, I'm sure you have that, and we'll get into your collegiate experience as well. But I mean, like you said, like that, I think that's kind of the foundation, right, of your athletic journey. It doesn't matter what sport, right? Especially if you want to compete, you put yourselves in that position, which kind of leads to my last question here. But so you went in and you said you were a three. What really made you want to make that decision to leave that situation you were at? Because I'm sure where you were at, you know what I mean? Like you were a one, killing in the game. So like, do you think that was a better? I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? Now you know what you know, but like, do you think at the time, nah, I'm going to stay here and be that number one on this not powerhouse, but still, be number one versus, all right, I'm going to uproot myself, change my environment to go to this new school, which obviously is going to get me more exposure, but I'm not going to be that number one starting off. Like what was that kind of mindset that you were in when you made that decision?
Yeah, so that was pretty much up to my parents. So I kind of, was just sharing with them, my feedback on the season and what I wanted to do going forward. I knew I wanted to play Division I football. I knew I wanted to get a scholarship. So I think that my parents just did a great job of putting me in position to succeed. So, we just did our homework in terms of trying to figure out, what would be the best scenario for me for the last 2 years of high school. And I think that honestly, they would have done anything. If I said, hey, I want to go to ING, or if they said, hey, we're going to send you to Bishop Gorman, whatever it was at the time that was best for me, they were willing to do that. And that's why I'm
Right.
so grateful for my support system. And when I went to PC during those times where I was battling as a three, I just remember like, nah, my parents, they got me here. Like, I'm gonna make sure I make them proud type of thing. That was kind of like one of my motivations when I was going through it, when I was going through it for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, definitely support system. It's huge. Was there? It sounds like obviously you have a solid support system with your parents and obviously your coaches in the new school. Like, was there an opportunity to where you went into it and um, maybe you learned something from that system where, hey, like this is what you need to do to put yourself in that position? Or were you the one that was kind of like actively seeking out those people, like, hey, coach, like what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Or were they kind of guiding you along the way? Because I know that, again, like from a young athlete perspective, there's people that have that support system that maybe their parents went to college and like, hey, no, you need to do XYZ. And when you get here, this is kind of the steps that you need to follow. Or on the flip side, you might have somebody that just does not have that and they're just kind of feeling their way around. I'm like, okay, this is kind of what I need to do. And they're just kind of, trying to figure it out, like, what do you think, kind of were those situations when you were kind of going through that?
When you asked that question, I kind of put myself back into, you know, 15, 16-year-old, D Stu mindset and what I was going through at that time. And I think it was a mixture of both. I think I was seeking, guidance, and I was seeking help to reach my goals. And then also they were pouring into me, naturally, because they wanted me to succeed. So it was like, we're going to bring you in here. We're going to make sure that you win. And I was like, I'm coming here. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to win, type of thing. So I think that they had the blueprint because they had so many guys go before me that went Division 1, and they just wanted to, since I, wanted to, like I said, attend a high academic school, they were going to make sure that I was in those AP honor classes and still perform at a high level on the field as well. So they pushed me, at all angles, and it was tough. It was a really hard transition, but I was really happy. I had a lot of fun, and I had a great experience at both schools. And to be at Paramus Catholic for my last 2 years was undefeated, man. It was lit. We was balling out there.
I mean, that makes it all the better, right? Because you get there, all that hard work, all that early grind, and then you see the fruits of your labor again on the field. And as you obviously started getting more letters and recruited, like that's when like, yeah, that's that validation that I think we're all looking for, right? And if not, then it's just an opportunity for you to learn from and get better. So that's great. So fast forward now, you're at Stanford. You accepted that offer. Number one, what about Stanford made you pick Stanford? And then how was that first, experience in terms of what your expectation was versus what the reality was when you stepped foot on campus?
Whew, talk about a loaded question, man. Yeah,
Right.
so yeah. So Stanford, man, it was tough even just to get in. You know what I'm saying? The admissions process in terms of you got to take the AP classes, you got to get a certain score on your SAT and ACT, and then you got to get the letters of recommendations, and then you got to do community service. It was just a whole bunch of stuff to get in. And I was, shoot, I was jumping for joy when I got in because I didn't know if I was going to make it for real. But we got in. We got in, and then it was tough, moving across country, learning the NFL style playbook, competing against fourth and fifth year guys, sometimes even six,
Men, like grown
yeah,
ass
yeah,
men.
grown man, grown, looking at me like, bro, you don't even know what's about to
Right.
happen. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So it was tough at first, but I feel like the summer, when you get there in the summer, you kind of get acclimated. You take 2 classes, you're around the team training, learning the campus environment. Yeah, it was a big transition, like I talked about, and then I was redshirted the first 3 games, so I was thinking like, man, like coach tripping, like I came in, I balled in during camp, you know what I'm saying? Christian McCaffrey's like, yo, you're a baller, like you got to play. I'm like, man, I'm that guy. Then they brought me in the meeting. I'm walking in feeling good, like I balled out during camp, like I'm like, it's a no brainer. And then Coach Shaw's like, yeah, Don, you had a great camp. You're doing a lot of great things, but I think we're gonna redshirt you this year. And then I was just like,
No, bruh.
I'm like, wow. I'm like, for real? Like, is there anything I can do to play? He's like, no, like you're doing a good job. We just want to make sure you're strong, and that, you're mentally, equipped to have all the tools to be ready when you're out there. We want you to be a big time playmaker for us. So take this year to develop. So I'm like, all right, cool. I trust the process. Like it's all good. And then 3 games in, they called me up. They called me up after the UCLA game, and then my first game was against the Washington Huskies up in Seattle, and it was rowdy. It was rowdy. That was my freshman year. Ended up playing the rest of the year, and then yeah, it just flew by just like that. And then next, I was a true sophomore, looking at the next class coming in. Like it was just me a couple of days ago, and me now, having to show them how to, get their schoolwork done, how to navigate campus, just like the guy showed me. So it happened super fast, happened real fast.
That's funny you say that because like you're the first person that actually touched on something that made me think. And when I always talk about expectation, right, I always think of the comparison, right? Like you're comparing what you know versus what you're learning and kind of seeing where that middle ground is. But like there's a whole component where it's kind of the strategy of it, right? Like you said, they had fourth and fifth year seniors, and people don't realize. Which now that I'm thinking about, like you have a clock that starts once your minutes start, right? So from their standpoint, it's like, okay, well, look, even if you were playing, your limits are going to get limited. Your minutes are going to get limited. But the fact that we have these guys, like we'd rather save that year, and then when you come in, you could be a 1 or a 2 versus you waste a year and you're a 3, and now it's just like, all right, that year's burned. So that's interesting. Obviously, it worked out because you came in and balled out. So that's cool, man. Is that what their approach was, or am I wrong in saying that?
No, the reason why I am, super thankful that I was redshirted was because um, my junior year, a rule came out that you can play 4 games and still redshirt. So I was a true freshman, then I was a true sophomore, and then I played, I want to say 3 games my junior year, the year that the rule came out, and then I ended up redshirting that year. And had I not redshirt that year, I would not have been able to go to Wake Forest. So yes, yes. So I was super thankful that, redshirted my junior year, had a true redshirt, and then played senior year, and then went to Wake for my 5th year, which counted for my redshirt year, and then had the COVID year. So just got super lucky how that turned out there.
The COVID year, man, that
The
was.
COVID.
How did that shake up things for you guys? I mean, I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but like that's really relevant, right? Because that's like I was talking with my college coach, and again, he was just talking about the ramifications of that COVID year and recruiting. So like, how was that for you guys? Obviously, it worked out for you, but like, how was that within just the overall program?
Yeah, so basically what happened was I committed to Wake in January, and then, obviously went back to Stanford February, and then, March 13th or 14th, whatever it was, they sent us home. So I'm thinking, I'm gonna be back in, a couple weeks or whatever the case is, and then never, I didn't end up going back until 2 years later for, pro day and graduation and stuff like that. So I went back home to New Jersey, rocked out online for the last couple months of the semester, my Stanford career, and then drove down to Wake Forest in June. Everything, was shut down, everything was closed. But we still, had training and stuff in the summer, limited groups and wearing masks. We practice in masks, like helmet, and then mask, either like, what I'm saying, the neck mask, or even
Oh
the
my,
one that covered the helmet, like covered. So I wore a
yeah,
visor. So mind you, I got the visor,
right,
and then I got the mask, and I'm wearing the black helmet and the black jersey
and a mouthpiece.
and the mouthpiece. It was
Nah,
gas.
I'm I'm
It,
I'm passing out.
I passed. It was gas. It was gas. I'm talking about like camp, where it's, as intense, as possible. The most intense part of the year is camp. So we're talking about, I'm in a new environment. Camp is super intense. I'm learning a new playbook. I'm competing like crazy, trying to scrap to get a spot on the field, and I'm wearing a mask, and it's like 97 degrees every day in North Carolina. So it was awful. It was awful. Yeah.
That's terrible. Well, you got through it.
Yeah.
So just kind of getting back to it. I saw something where it was like, I don't know if there's an interview or something, but you did something where it's talking about game faces for athletes, and they were talking about, the mental health and injuries and all that good stuff. So tell me a little bit about that as it pertains to obviously your journey.
Wow, man, you're bringing up one of my favorite, events, one of my favorite memories from college. Um, but basically, the event was called Game Face at Stanford, where athletes, always wearing their game face. They got to look, serious. They got to look, be prepared for, battle. We're going into battle. We're trying to hit a time. We're trying to, beat our competitors, stuff like that. So this was basically an event where we took off our game face and we showed exactly and genuinely, authentically who we are, what we're going through. And, during that mental health space, we just wanted to offer some encouragement to all the other students and other student athletes, staff members on campus that it's tough for us too, but we can all kind of gravitate towards one another and all help each other. So originally I wasn't selected to speak. I think it was like 8 or 9 student athletes, and I was super bummed because I wanted to, and then someone ended up dropping out, and then they chose me. And I went through a process of talking about the things that I wanted to touch on that had an impact on me in high school and growing up and in college. And I finally put together pieces of how I wanted to say it, how I wanted to present, and I had maybe like a month. Since I was late, I probably had maybe 2 or 3 weeks to really prepare. So they paired me up with the upperclassman that was a part of Game Faces. His name was, Matt Anderson, and we chipped away for 2.5 to 3 weeks. And then we went to like one of the most beautiful spots on Stanford's campus. And it was like 4 people who went, and then it was an intermission, like a piano, song in the middle, and then I went right after that. And I remember I was so nervous, Trey. I was so nervous that when the girl was playing the piano, I just like I lost it. Like I just started sweating profusely. Like I just started just breathing super fast, and I'm like, I can't do it. Like there's no way. Like I go up there, and one of my friends who spoke, who was also on the football team, Frank Bunkum, he hugged me like, nah, bro, you're good. Like it's okay, bro. Just say how you feel. Just speak the real. You know what I'm saying? Just go up there and just speak from the heart. And everybody's reading off cards and whatever they typed up, and then I just went up there, took a deep breath, and then just said what I was practicing for the past 2.5 weeks, and it flowed from the heart. And a lot of people were moved, a lot of people were touched, and a lot of people just came up to me after and was just super thankful that I was, vulnerable and shared, some encouragement and some love. And that was one of the best feelings of my life. And yeah, shout out to Game Faces at Stanford University. It's a platform where student athletes can talk and share their mental health, share about anything that they want to talk on relating to that. And it was a beautiful night, man. It was a beautiful night. They gave us flowers afterwards. They allowed us. Everyone came down, in the middle of Green Library, and just you know were just celebrating us. Everybody was celebrating each other, and it was a moving experience for sure, for sure.
I definitely like that because it's funny. I'm sure you've had this debate conversation once upon a time, but it's like there's this perception that athletes are, privileged and all that other stuff, and it's true. But I was talking with one of our athletes, or maybe a previous guest, but they were like, yeah, you know, at the same time, like we're still student athletes. We're still doing the same thing that regular student athletes are doing and are expected to do. But there's this level of like pressure and expectation being an athlete, and people don't get a chance to see what the backstory is, like background things that maybe you brought into school that were either driving you or things that you were battling with, on top of the expectation of, yeah, we don't care about that, we just need you to perform, like as heavy on top of time management and all that good stuff. So I really like that, and that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up and see, get your thoughts on it, because I think that's a good way to shed light for people that are on the outside looking in. Like, yo, we're still doing what you have to do, but then there's like all this other stuff that we have to do too. So like, yeah, maybe we get priority registration, or maybe you're at the pro level and, you get these things, right? But it's like, yeah, there's so much more that comes with what you don't see. So I'm glad you were able to share that. Next one that I saw was something that you talked about, and I just wanted to kind of open the floor for you just real quick. But you had a piece or maybe another motivational speaker about architectural living. And I think that hit home, especially with like some of the inner city athletes, you know what I mean? So what did that mean for you? What was that about it? What did that mean for you?
Yeah, so actually those were both that's the same video. So
Oh, the speak. Okay.
Yep. So
Gotcha.
Game Faces was the platform, and I titled the video Architectural Living. And just to touch on, the inner city kids, like I'm an inner city kid, and I know what it feels like to, grow up and not have the resources or not have, just the type of, outlets and, stuff of that nature to be able to, make it easier for you to achieve your dreams and goals. So, I just want to shed light on I know what it feels like. And if anyone wanted support or guidance, that they can come to me. And yeah, it was all tied into that video. That was all the same thing.
Video. That's dope. Well, I'm glad because I was like, wait, who's putting on what? And obviously, I'm looking at stuff, so you never know what you're going to find. But I encourage anybody who's listening to this, go Google Donald Stewart Architectural Living because I thought it was dope, man. And there's so many people that can relate to that message that you were conveying. So cool. So kind of back to the sports, right? Obviously, you had this goal of making it to the NFL. So, what was that preparation like for you managing your academics on top of, your athlete journey kind of thing? And how did you kind of balance the two of those?
I think the first step for me was kind of learning, how do I process information, right? So taking myself through the journey of, okay, how do I learn? How do I remember? And then, okay, how do I learn the fastest? How do I, remember the fastest? What's the quickest way to remember what I just studied? And I think
Retention. I like that.
And I think I learned that from the playbook because the playbook was 3 plays at a time at Stanford. So it would be like, you know, trips right, 33 jet, China, kill, 42 dive, alert, 38 jet sweep. So I'm like thinking like, okay, I got to do A, B, and C. And then I line up and it's like, okay, 5, 4, okay, play B. Okay, boom, I got to do this. Boom, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So it was tough to remember all of that. But then I started to realize, okay, this is how I learn. This is how I learn faster. Now this is what I can do for school. So I applied that to school. And then the second thing I had to learn was how to, balance, school with with athletics along with, time to do other things that don't relate to school or, football. So once I found the balance between school and football, then it was like, okay, now what can I do to take my mind off that? So that was the second thing was balancing, that's when I got into, music and speaking and stuff like that. So then the third thing I would say is just like mentors and utilizing like the upperclassmen. So I would just lean on people who went through the process before me, ask them questions, and they would just put me on game. And obviously I wouldn't do the same exact thing that they did, but I'd kind of be able to take, okay, bro said this, okay, sis said that. Like Erica, she said, yeah, do this, this, and that. And I'm like, oh, like I didn't even realize that. But she'd been in school for 3, 4 years already. She knows the process. And that's I'm like, okay. Then I come back to, okay, I did this. She gives me feedback, and then she's like, yep, do this next time, or that was a great job. And then that's how I was able to progress forward in the journey. And then going to Wake Forest, I literally, reflected on the 4 years at Stanford, taking everything that I learned, the good and the bad and the ugly, and then saying, okay, fresh start. This is how I go about this process now in a new environment. And then I basically had a clean slate and just started attacking all angles from there.
That's that's the blueprint, right? Like connecting with with other athletes, tapping into that network, you creating your own structure, your own blueprint, and then just kind of, going from there and then obviously paying it forward down the line. That's awesome, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap because I know we're at 36 minutes or so, and I want to be respectful of your time. But again, thanks again for hopping on, man. I always end the interviews, with this one question. Not saying you would or you want to, but like looking back on your journey, what's something that maybe if you could change, you would change or maybe modify, that you think, I could have done this better. I would have done this differently, or I didn't know that. So I would go back and do it this way now that I know. Like, what's something that you can kind of leave with the audience that they can potentially kind of maybe be alert of or be aware of?
Yeah, I was in, college for 6 years. In high school, I went to two different high schools, moved across the country and back. So there was a lot of things that I learned and wish that I could have, done differently. I think that one thing that I probably wish I could have done differently was maybe just freshman and sophomore year take advantage of the resources and the upperclassmen who were there early on.
In
I feel like you
college or
don't
high school?
in college.
Got you.
In college, I feel like freshman and sophomore year, you're just trying to figure out where your next class is, or you're just trying to pass the exam so you pass the class so you're eligible to play. And I think that had I was more intentional about, the resources and the advisors and the upperclassmen who already went through the process, that way I would have been, a lot more, it would have been easier for me and I would have had a lot more time to do other things instead of, just making it to the finish line. So,
Nah, be in the moment, right? I like that. Cool, man. So again, I know we talked about it, but last thing, go ahead and tell everybody what's next steps for you. Obviously, we talked about in the open NFL, got some practices, some journeys. Like, what can we be on the lookout for you?
yeah, I would say, first off, it was an honor to, be on your show, man. You asked some great questions. We leveled and we vibed for, 30 minutes or not. So I had a great time being on the show. One of my first times doing something like this. So it was super awesome to kick it off with you. Also, I would say, did a little acting this year with Winning Time season two. So definitely going to pursue something in the future. Coach high school football this year back at Seton Hall Prep, the school that I started at. So that was a lot of fun. And then also, still training to make an NFL team. So, I would just ask people to just keep me in their prayers. And, if they want to reach out to me, if they want, some guidance or mentorship, or even if you want me to plug you with anything that I can help you with, just hit my line. Like I'm on the socials, and like I said, I'm in Jersey right now, so just training and trying to make the next move my best move.
Yeah, man, appreciate that. And obviously, we're wishing you all the best. And same thing I told Erica, you're in the family now. My goal is to build this network, right? So whether it's young athletes, young, the next wide receiver that's looking for someone that's, hey, like, hey, we're at Stanford, trying to get into Stanford. Oh, boom, I'm gonna plug you with Donald because he knows, you know what I mean? Like that's the goal. And I feel like we have the resources to do that. And I could be wrong, but I feel like there's not really a platform or a community, right? Outside of just that individual institution. So hopefully that's my goal through our nonprofit Tri Elements Fitness. So yeah, man, thanks again for hopping on. If you are listening, definitely follow Donald on all social media. If you don't know his Instagram, you can hop on ours at Tri Elements Fitness because we're definitely linked up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us out. And again, Donald, good luck, man. And we'll stay connected for sure.
Yes, sir. Good luck with your journey, man, and anything you need, tap in with me. But shout out to Tri Element Fitness, man. Great podcast, great show, great person. Make sure y'all tap in.
I appreciate it, man. All right, you guys have a good one.
Yes, sir.
Yep.